The universe played a prank on astronomers, but the reality may be much cooler. This is a well-known instance of mistaken identity, as well as stellar vampirism. Astronomers announced the finding of the nearest black hole to the solar system 2 years ago, and as it happens, the black hole wasn't there after all. It seems that we had stumbled onto the nearest black hole ever, but there was also considerable doubt surrounding that amazing discovery. Let's explore the reasons why the nearest black hole to Earth was a hoax to begin with. The greatest scrutiny is essential when it comes to research that has potential to alter our perception of the cosmos. It appears that those critics were right after all. So, a brief history. The nearest black hole to Earth is located 1,200 light years away from Earth, or less than 1% of the Milky Way's diameter, or so we thought. In 2020, researchers discovered a neighboring star system that looked to contain this extraordinary monster, a two-star system with one star draining the life out of the other. The result, however, offers scientists a fascinating chance to investigate how these vampiric stars grow, so it is far from disappointing. To go back, it should be noted that the idea that the star system may have been home to a black hole was speculative in the first place and relied on a few untested presumptions. When HR 6819 was initially discovered in the 1980s, it was thought to be a single fast-rotating object known as a B star. Many years later, a careful examination of its light showed the presence of a companion that orbited it once every 40 days and was relatively close to it. 2 years ago, scientists from the European Southern Observatory claimed that the B star should be swaying more than it was, suggesting the presence of an extra undiscovered mass that may be adding weight to the equation. And for those who don't know what a B star is, you're at the right place. However, in order to define a B star, we must define a B-type star. We know that can be a little confusing, but please stick with us. B-type stars are between 4 and 18 times larger than the Sun. The most prominent of the many characteristics of a B-type star would be that the stars are incredibly luminous and blue. The B-type star group contains some of the most well-known and recognizable stars in the sky that can be seen with the naked eye. Spica and Regulus are two examples, and B star has optical linear polarization, and its infrared emission is frequently significantly higher than that of other B-type stars. So let's get back to the mysterious black hole. At the time, it was believed that this finding would only be the beginning of many more such black holes being discovered, but unfortunately, it was a case of false identity. Prior to the discovery, the nearest known black hole was A062000. A new study by some astronomers raises the possibility that they were duped by a cosmic illusion. Crazy. In the initial study conducted by ESO scientist Thomas Rivenus and published in 2020, as mentioned earlier in the video, it was discovered that HR 6819 was a triple system, with one star tightly circling a black hole and another star in wide orbit. However, Julia Bodensteiner, who was an associate of ESO, proposed that the system might only have two stars if one was eliminating and absorbing most of the mass of the other, a phenomenon known as stellar vampirism. Both the press and scientists paid close attention to the initial investigation of HR 6819. The lead author of that publication, Chile-based ESO scientist Thomas Rivenus, was unsurprised by how the astronomical community reacted to the finding of the black hole. He said, "Not only is it normal, but it should be the results are scrutinized," he continued, and as a result of that makes headlines even more so. However, as we already mentioned in the video, there was a lot of debate around the black hole idea, leading others to hypothesize that the companion may really have a far less mass than had been calculated. Any idea of a third object would be unnecessary with the scaled down, lighter comparison since it lacks the strength to move the B star out of alignment. And despite all the skepticism, it was still an exciting idea to imagine that there was a black hole in our universe, at least until it could be definitively disproved. However, Rivenus and Bodensteiner decided to work together to investigate HR 6819 more thoroughly and choose which explanation was more plausible using ESO's Very Large Telescope and Very Large Telescope Interferometer. And, according to both of their theories, space was the primary distinction between the two possibilities. The distance between the two luminous things would be a reasonable gap if there were three things: an undetected black hole, and a brilliant main sequence star, and a radiant B star. If there were only two things, they would only need to be divided by a very small portion of that distance. And to get better data, the new team used ESO's Very Large Telescope and Very Large Telescope Interferometer for their studies, two potent devices centered in Chile that could generate more detailed image of HR 6819 than the tools used in Rivenus' initial study. Whereas Rivenus' initial study relied on findings gathered by a fairly small telescope, the new team turned to these instruments for their research. And sure enough, the research teams discovered that the two stars in HR 6819 actually orbit each other at only 1/3 of the range between the Earth and the Sun, indicating that one of them was far larger and faster spinning than the other. Additionally, it was discovered that nothing was brightly illuminating at a broader distance of about 100 milliarc seconds. Instead, the stars 1 milliarc seconds proximity to one another. In other words, this implies that a black hole is not necessary. There are just two stars in close orbit, and there isn't even a black hole. But the lack of a black hole is nothing to mourn. According to Bodensteiner's remark, our best interpretation so far is that we captured this binary system in a moment just after one of the stars had pulled the atmosphere of its partner star. That explanation supports the notion of stellar vampires. Due to its briefness, Frost remarked that catching such a post-interaction period is quite difficult. This is why HR 6819 is an excellent candidate to examine how this vampirism influences the growth of massive stars, which in turn affects the production of their related phenomena, such as gravitational waves and powerful supernova explosions, according to the authors of the study. In light of this, HR 6819 continues to be a fascinating study target for totally other reasons. Even if the distance between the Earth and the nearest known black hole has only been extended by a few thousand light years, despite the fact that they are only two ordinary stars in a typical binary association. It should be noted that the word ordinary in this context does not indicate boring. We're observing the couple at a very particular point, just before stellar retirement. One of them has just about completely drained the other of its atmosphere, like some kind of celestial vampire. It's unusual for a mistake to result in a new discovery, and even more exceptional for a mistake to be followed by something that has the potential to radically alter our understanding of the cosmos. And yet, that is what actually happened. Additionally, the team is enthusiastic about the search for black holes. It will only be a matter of time until an astronomer finds them. Yes, having a stellar-sized black hole nearby would have been beneficial for astronomy, but finding a pleased vampire and its prey at our door is indeed a revelation that will teach us a lot about the unusual ways our universe behaves. And did you know that our own Milky Way galaxy has a supermassive black hole? Since the black hole is so far away from the Earth, about 27,000 light years away, it would appear to us to be approximately the same size in the sky as a donut on the moon. Amazing, right? What are your thoughts on this celestial vampire we just discussed? And what effect do you believe the formation of tiny black holes will have on science and humanity? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below.